Welcome into the draft profile for Jalen Royals, wide receiver out of Utah State. Super excited to talk about him. Jalen Royals was on track for 1,400 yards and over 90 receptions before a foot injury ended his season, before he could have put together one of the more impressive wide receiver seasons in college football last year. He really had a chance to bolster his draft stock, and I think he did enough. He showed over the past 2 years that he has been a super productive player. Obviously at a small school, and that definitely factors into the conversation. But man, this is a guy who I think has a ton of upside in the NFL. This is a guy I think a team is gonna find a value in. It's gonna be probably late third to fourth round range is kind of where I expect. I don't bury the lead for you guys. I'm gonna give you all the details, all of my thoughts. Let's go ahead and get to the skill chart for you guys and break down exactly the type of guy that I think this is. I don't know if I already mentioned this, but he is 6 foot, 220 pounds, ran a 4.41 at the combine, 4.52 10-yard split, if I'm remembering correctly. So explosive guy, and that's where we have to start with. Explosiveness at a 6.3. He is incredibly explosive athlete. He definitely has like that legit burst, that legit ball in your hand burst. He's gonna be that type of player, I think, at the next level. You're gonna want to get him the ball in his hands as quickly as possible. Now, I will say in college, a lot of short to intermediate routes because I think they were just kind of trying to force feed the ball to him on a team that didn't have a great pass game in general, didn't have an awesome quarterback that could really be dynamic in the passing game and utilize maybe all of the traits that I think Royals does have. But his explosiveness is real. His explosion is real. There's going to be some questions about his long speed, I think. And I only say that because, when you're talking about an NFL athlete, I would like to see him really creating space between him and some of these guys that are going to be selling insurance in a couple years. So I look at his pure explosiveness and I say, okay, short area I really like. I mean, his initial burst is really good, and you look at his yards after catch at 7.2. That's his only elite grade on this on my skill chart at 7.2. 7 and above is for me an elite grade. I do think he runs the ball like a running back, like ball in his hand. He plays like a running back in that way, and he definitely has some home run hitting speed. But that second gear is just good. It's not great. And if it was great, I think we'd be talking, at least for me, about a guy who you really consider in the second round, who you really take a shot on. Like, he just blows you away. It's like, man, how could you not go for a guy that just has this level of explosive? Like, it's not that. It's a tier down from that. I want to give you a little bit of context of the way I see him. I'm really excited about him. I do think he's got a lot of potential in the NFL, but again, I say that to kind of set up the rest of this conversation and say this is why he's not going to be talked about in the second round or, in that range. His foot speed is just okay, and this is more in his route running. This is more in his release. And again, I think these are elements to his game that he can improve. He can still grow in this part of his game. I think he's going to need to at the next level. Route running at a 5.1, it's fine. I think you're going to go into camp, and again, I always try to give the caveat that I am projecting a little bit, right? Some of his routes weren't as crisp as I would like. I mean, he did round out routes. I think it didn't really matter just because of where he was and the situation that he was in. Yeah, you weren't in a place where you really had to run the perfect route to create separation against a lot of the guys that were playing. And not to disparage the MAC, but we just got to be realistic with where we are at and, what worked for him and what was necessary for him to succeed at the level he was playing at. So that I think that's a real conversation. But I give it a positive grade at a 5.1 to say, yeah, there were elements of it that I didn't love. I wanted a little bit more precision. I wanted him to be. I think he was good out of breaks. He attacked the ball really well, but he definitely could improve some of the nuances of the route running. He could definitely improve a lot of the nuances of down the field, his hand fighting, like putting yourself in the best possible position to win. So I'm not gonna ask him to be your down the field threat. I don't view him that way. I'm really gonna ask him to be your big slot guy at the NFL level. That's the vision for his game that I see. And if you view him like that, I mean, just an explosive slot weapon I think he can be in the NFL. I think that's really what we're talking about. Now, with that said, he does have elements of his game that would lead you to believe he could do the boundary receiver thing. I don't think he's going to be stuck in the slot 100% of snaps, and you just can't, expect him to win on the outside at all. I don't see that at all. I just think early on, especially, you're getting way more production from the slot than you are the outside. He converted 64.3% of his contested catch attempts last year. So, if you're a 60-40 guy, that's pretty good. Now, again, that does go back to, I don't know that he's doing that against Patrick Surtain. I mean, let's just be realistic, but it speaks to the broader picture of what this guy could do. He's got great hands. I love his hands. Got late hands, attacks the ball in the air, plays that aspect of the game is really good. And to kind of harken back to what I expect him to do in the NFL, over the middle, catch the ball immediately, getting contact, things like that, I'm comfortable with. I feel really good about. And he has the body type to be able to handle that as well. Another wide receiver for me that fits a mold, has a specific style, and the right team that's targeting this style of wide receiver, I think, is going to find a gem in Jalen Royals. And again, like I said at the beginning of the video, I like him more in the 4th round. Love him if he can, if he dips outside of that. I don't think he will, just based on the wide receiver class as a whole. You're going to run out of these types of names. You just are. And whether or not that's in the 3rd round or, I don't think he's going to go too much earlier than that. There's going to be a lot of conversations around him. And the other aspect of that for me is, there's a world where you can strike gold with Jalen Royals. You can get him in an NFL locker room, get him in NFL conditioning and coaching, and he can end up developing into a true dynamic wide receiver 1 in the league. He has all the traits. He has all the tools. There's nothing limiting his game from a physical standpoint or anything like that. I do think his game's probably limited early on just based on what I saw, but I definitely think there's a lot of room to grow. I think this is a guy, if I'm running my team, I want to see him. I'd bring him in. I'd have him running with my coaches. I'd kind of get a feel for the guy, for the dude, what he thinks he needs to work on. Does he have a good understanding of who he is as a player and where he can grow and develop? If he does, man, I think you definitely have a shot of just taking a shot on the dude and the person and betting on the potential of what he could be. That's why I'm pumped about him. That's why I feel like I'm probably a little higher on him than the rest of the NFL and draft community, just because I do think the ultimate high-end potential is there. Obviously not year 1. I do think, it'll take a little bit of time, but if he can develop the way I believe is possible for him, I mean, sky's the limit for this dude. I really see that, and I definitely think that possibility is going to have him drafted a little bit earlier than I think even people expect, all right? With the upside from day 1 as your slot, and then the ultimate potential of the player. Yeah, I think you take a shot on a guy like that. I really do. All right, guys, that's all I got on Jalen Royals. Let me know what you think in the comments. Please like, subscribe, all that good stuff. It means a lot to me if you help support the channel, support me trying to grow this. I'm doing a draft profile every single day leading up to the draft. Hopefully, I'll probably miss a day or 2 here and there. Just realistically, I'm a human, and that's a big ask to do 6 weeks of it. But that's my goal. Putting out a ton of mock drafts. Going to be doing at least 1 mock draft a week, probably 2 or 3. Look, this is my time. I love it. Every second of my free time is being dedicated to the NFL draft, and past the NFL draft, I'll be saying the exact same thing. I'll be talking about it all summer, man. And follow this channel if you're interested. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.